Broadcasting live from the studios of Fox Sports Radio.
Bang, bang, won't stop till we're legends.
Here's Doug Gottlieb.
Where are you best used within what you guys are doing differently offensively?
Just moving me around in more spots, man. Getting out of the slot some and going outside. That just helps a lot. In the slot we run a lot of the same routes over and over and over again. So, moving me outside kind of lets me broaden the horizons a little bit and run some different routes. And I can't just have like a nickel corner sitting outside of me with the mic working this way and then be covered, So they just have to look out for me from different positions.
Is that, like, to the layman, is that the explanation for what happened last year? Was you guys got too predictable? Or is it, look, if you watch the Cowboys, like, Tyron got hurt, Zeke suspended, and then there was a certain predictability with it. Like, why for you personally, as you, I'm sure you felt like you're better last year than you were the year before,
right?
But there's not the stats to back that up. You didn't get the targets that you got to back that up,
right? I don't know. I don't think it's any one thing. All those things kind of played a part in it. So it's hard to just put a finger on what it was why we did so bad last year. But all we could do was look back at that and learn from it and move on. And I think everybody's done a good job of kind of progressing in the way our offense has moved so far. With just, moving guys around all over the place is different than what we normally do. So I think that'll make it harder on opposing defenses.
You kind of got an over-the-top thing. Do you ever see the movie Over the Top? It's a little bit old for you, a little bit dated for you. It's an old Sly Stallone movie.
No.
All right, so he's a truck driver, and he was also like an arm wrestler, like a champion arm wrestler.
Right.
And so he'd be one guy, and then when he turned his hat backwards, he'd be kind of a different guy.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I see you. Like if I run into you on the street, you're like kind of normal dude, very chill.
Right.
You put on the helmet and the shoulder pads on a Sunday, and you're a wild man. Right? Is that fair? Is that fair?
Yeah, they call it flipping the switch, man. You have to be. You can't just be a normal person on the football field. Normal people don't do that.
Okay, so I ask you that because there's 13 wide receivers right now in camp.
Right.
13, that's a lot of dudes, right? And Dez wanted to be an alpha, and Jason Witten's one of the most respected guys to ever put that helmet on, right? So what's your personality with your receivers group? Are you this Cole Beasley, or are you flip the switch alpha Cole Beasley?
I'm laid back on, like, off the field. Once we get on the field, we're grinding and everybody's in the heat of the battle. You never know what's going to happen, really. Just emotions are flying. Football's an emotional game. If you're not emotionally invested, you can't play it. So I'm sure we'll be fiery on the sideline in some situations, but this group, I really don't have to say much, man. Everybody comes out and goes to work. That's one of the better things about this group.
Dak in year 3. Mm-hmm. How is he different in year 3 from in year 2?
I've always said this. Dak's been the same guy from day one. He's always took command of the huddle, and it's like he was always supposed to be in there, from the moment he stepped in. You wouldn't have known he was a rookie when he came in, the way he just kind of took control and the confidence and the presence that he had in the huddle. So, it's really not much different. When
your wide receivers coach says we want separation, not back shoulder throws,
right?
How do you take that? When you hear that, how do you take it?
He wants us to get open, really. Back shoulder throws are when, you haven't really beat the DB and he stays on top. He wants us to just annihilate DBs, and so then it's easy that way. Back shoulder throws are always going to be contested. He wants the down the field touchdown throws.
I have a son who's look, I'm barely 6 feet tall. He wants to be a wide receiver. Basically, he wants to be you, right? But your job is incredibly dangerous. Now they're trying to make it safer, but it's incredibly dangerous. How do you have the fortitude to know that at any time you're catching it, somebody's coming firing? And look, naturally you're gonna get down,
right.
And the more you get down, the more likely you are to get hit even harder. How do you mentally, as a bright guy, how do you process that you're going to get hit every Sunday and occasionally 2 or 3 times really hard on a Sunday?
Well, like I said, you can't be a normal guy and go out there and play football and do what we do. You gotta have some type of craziness in your brain. But really, it's more than that. It's knowing how to play and learning how to play the game. I know what my strengths are and I know where my weaknesses are. And I've probably only been just absolutely smashed probably like 4 times in my career. I'm pretty good at avoiding them and just learning that through college. And you take hits, but you know how to get under them, and so they look harder than what they really are if you know how to play. When
you go from an undrafted out of SMU to being a star with the Dallas Cowboys on a Sunday, I think the thing that I would love to know most is, what's it like to run out that field? Star inside your helmet, greatest stadium ever created, one of the great franchises in the history of any sport. What's that feeling like?
You can't even really, describe the feeling. It's like an excitement that you don't always feel. It's really just adrenaline, man. I'm sure everyone's felt adrenaline. I mean,
I played basketball in college at Oklahoma State.
Right.
Okay, and so I used to remember, you get introduced, play the fight song, you get out there, and the first TV timeout, all of a sudden you'd be tired as hell. You'd be like, man, I need a second wind. I need to catch my breath. Is it like, do you go through that as well?
No, I don't go through that. Warm-ups, I'm very laid back in warm-ups, and I try to save. Knowing that, I save as much energy as possible, because just so I have, enough to make it through the game. Those games are long, and they're beaten. So, just to make it through the whole game, I feel like I need every ounce of energy. So I try not to really blow it early. Really, when I get my excitement is right before the game starts, when the national anthem's played. That's when I get the goosebumps and I'm ready to go. And really, you never fully into the game until you get hit that first time.
Right. Well, everybody says they don't want to get hit, but then they do get hit, and it makes them feel like a football game. We don't want to see you get hit too hard.
Right.
But can't wait to see the Wild Man on Sundays this year for the Cowboys. We enjoyed talking with you, and thanks so much for joining us.
All right, man. I appreciate it.